Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Lust and desire became manifested from the heart of Brahma, anger from between his eyebrows, greed from between his lips, the power of speaking from his mouth, the ocean from his penis, and low and abominable activities from his anus, the source of all sins. Purport. A conditioned soul is under the influence of mental speculation. However great one may be in the estimation of mundane education and learning, he cannot be free from the influence of psychic activities. Therefore, it is very difficult to give up lust and desire for low activities until one is in the line of devotional service to the Lord. When one is frustrated in lust and low desires, anger is generated from the mind and expressed between the eyebrows. Ordinary men are therefore advised to concentrate the mind by focusing on the place between the eyebrows, whereas the devotees of the Lord are already practiced to place the Supreme Personality of Godhead on the seat of their minds. The theory of becoming desireless is untenable because the mind cannot be made desireless. When it is recommended that one be desireless, it is understood that one should not desire things which are destructive to spiritual values. A devotee of the Lord always has the Lord in his mind, and thus he does not need to be desireless because all his desires are in relationship with the Supreme, with the service of the Lord. The power of speaking is called Saraswati or the goddess of learning, and the birthplace of goddess of learning is the mouth of Brahma. Even if a man is endowed with the favor of the goddess of learning, it is quite possible for his heart to be full of lust and material desires, and his eyebrows to display symptoms of anger. One may be very learned in the mundane estimation, but that does not mean that he is free from all low activities of lust and anger. Good qualifications can be expected only from a pure devotee who is always engaged in the thought of the Lord or in samadhi with faith. The sense the Bhakti Vedanta purport. So, as the chapter title describes, the creation of Kumara and others. So far, Brahma has created many Prajapatis, his sons. So now Brahmaji has started creating different elements of this material nature, which are required for the living entities in this world. So in the previous verse, from previous verse onwards, apart from the non-human beings, other elements creation has started. So Brahma manifested religion from his breast and irreligion from his back. So after this, in this verse, today's verse, it is described that Brahma created 5 different elements. So lust and desire became manifested from the heart of Brahma. Hridi Kama, the lust has manifested from Hridi, from the heart of Brahma. Then Bruva Krodha, anger created from Bruva. Bruva means eyebrows, so between the eyebrows. Then third element, Lobha created from Cha Adhara Dachchadat, between the lips, Adhara. We have Krishna's one of the prayer, Adharam Maduram. So his lips are also beautiful. So the lip, Adhara means lips. So from between the lips, the Lobha was created. Then Vak Sindhavo. So walk, from the mouth, walk, the potency of speaking, the power of speaking created. Then Sindhavo Medran. Sindhu means oceans. So oceans were created from the Medra, from the genital penis. Then Nirritihi. Nirriti means low activity. Payo from the anus, and these activities are known as reservoir of all vices. Aga Ashrayaha. So like this, 5 different elements were created from the different bodily parts of Brahmaji. So the lust and desire, here it's mentioned Hridi Kamo. So Kama proper translates as lust and desire. So lust has many different variations. So one of the starting variation in the form of a attachment, then desire. So then going ahead, lust turns into many different activities. So that Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita in the second as well as in the third chapter about lust. So Krishna explains a very beautiful sequence. So first Krishna, in the second chapter, Krishna explains Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsam Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodho Vijayate. So Dhyayato Vishaya, Dhyayato means meditating or while contemplating, thinking about something. So when we are thinking about the sense objects, what happens? A person develops attachment for them, for the sense objects. Then from such attachment, lust develops. And then from lust, what happens? Anger arises. So this is the problem with the lust. If it is just an of course, attachment is also wrong. But lust has many different variations. What is that? Lust, if it is satisfied, it becomes what? Greed, lobha. So once it is satisfied does not mean that, okay, it's complete satisfied, it's enough now. No, it wants more. Just like if you pour ghee onto the fire, what happens? The blazingness of the fire increases. Similarly, so lust, when it is satisfied, it becomes lobha, greed. We want more and more, more and more. And if it is not satisfied, it becomes anger. Again, third chapter, Krishna explains this, that how lust becomes anger. So, and from lust, anger arises. So, in the next verse, again, Krishna continues the sequence. Then from this verse stopped with Kama Krodho Vijayate. So, from Kama, Krodha arises. Then, Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha. Sammoha Smriti Vibhramaha. Smriti Bhramshat Buddhinasho. Buddhinashat Pranashyati. So, from Krodha, what happens? Sammoha. Sammoha means illusion, moha. So moha develops. So from moha develops bewilderment of memory, smriti vibhramaha. So a person goes crazy, bewilderment of memory. He does not, when a person is in illusion, he will not be able to make any distinction between what is right, what is wrong, what he is supposed to do, what he is not supposed to do. Prabhupada will come back to this subject. Prabhupada in the first line of the purport itself explains about what is the condition of a person who is in this material world or a conditioned soul. So the first symptom is that Prabhupada mentions, he is under the influence of mental speculation. That's what Krishna is saying. Smriti vibhramaha. So from delusion, bewilderment of memory. Then smriti bhramshat buddhinasho. So when memory is bewildered, what happens? Intelligence is lost. So when intelligence is lost, what happens? Once fall down into the material pool. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. So he will fall down into the material pool. Further, he will degrade himself into the more deep into the material world. So started from attachment, then lust. So here in this okay. So before we come back to the verse. So next Krishna further explains in the next chapter, third chapter, Karma Yoga, towards the end. So he gives nice instructions to Arjuna. So after giving all the instructions, Arjuna is asking question. Arjuna uvacha atakhena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anicham api varshneya balat iva niyojitaha. Just like in this verse also, it's mentioned that nivrittir pador aghashrayaha. Agha means sin. Ashraya means shelter or origin of all kinds of sins. So here Arjuna is asking that question. Atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha. A person, even though he does not want to do such sinful activity, but still he does. What is the reason? As if someone is forcing him, as if someone is behind him, you should do this activity only. So what is the reason? So Arjuna said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what one is impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force. So then Krishna gives answer. It is why, what is the, why is committing all this sinful activity? It is because of lust only, Arjuna. Kama yesha, krodha yesha, rajo guna samudbhavaha. So kama, the lust, here again Krishna is further explaining about kama. So kama, when it comes in touch with rajoguna and tamoguna, rajoguna samudbhavaha, what happens? It turns into krodha, anger. So that's what kama, when it is not satisfied, it turns into krodha. So then, Mahashano Mahapapna Vidhi Eniha Vairinaha. So this one is which is all devouring sinful enemy of this world. So Krishna terms lust as the all devouring sinful enemy of this world. Devouring means what? Something which swallows up everything. So lust, if a person is actually influenced by lust, then his senses are completely lost. He will not be doing any activity in this world, any useful activity which is for the Krishna consciousness. So, in the purport, Prabhupada first line mentions a conditioned soul is under the influence of mental speculation. However great one may be in the estimation of mundane education and thinking, he cannot be free from the influence of psychic activity. So, one of the symptom of a conditioned soul is that mental speculation. So, what is the meaning of mental speculation? So, mental speculation, he will think, one of the way of mental speculation is that he will think some artificial means may enjoy my senses, may give some happiness for me. He does not know what is Swartha Gati, ultimate good, what actually gives him eternal happiness. So recently, viral news which was very viral was about one of the richest person of the world. So this article was published in Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal is one of the most reputed, magazine or a journal, kind of a magazine in the world. So that mentions about Elon Musk. So that magazine mentions, it was very viral in many of the Indian medias as well, that he takes a small doses of psychedelic drug, ketamine, to treat depression, and full doses while attending parties. A report in the Wall Street Journal has claimed. So then also says that the publication made a claims. So many individuals, his business partners, his fellow employees, they have seen him taking the drugs during the parties or during such events or occasions. So this is what Prabhupada is saying here. However, a great one may be in the estimation of mundane education and learning, he cannot be free from the influence of psychic activities. So hallucination, what is basically, if you could get into the details, what is the psychedelic drug or ketamine? So basically, this drug, what it makes after consuming, it puts him into a condition where apparently he thinks, kind of staying high forever. So that kind of a situation, kind of a hallucination. So hallucination means what? Accepting wrong as the right, or accepting which is not existing as existing. So he will be thinking, oh, I'm very happy now, I'm very peaceful, all my anxiety is relieved, all my distress is relieved. But actually, these are all artificial ways of thinking ourselves that we are happy, because they don't know what is the real way of happiness. That's why it is known as hallucination. Believing something which is not existing as existing. So that is the condition of even however learned or richest person may be. So unless they come to Krishna consciousness, they can never be they can never be happy. So in one of the morning walk conversations, a devotee asked Prabhupada that they were walking down the beach side they were walking, and Prabhupada, so along with that, Dr. Judah is one of the professor who extensively interacted with Prabhupada in we see couple of discussions conversations with him. So then he's asking Prabhupada, what does one do about lust? That means, how do one deal with lust, or how one should come out of the lust? So Prabhupada answer. Prabhupada generally when he is walking, so Prabhupada used to carry walking stick. So Prabhupada firmly fixes that into the sand, as if to prove a very strong point. He fixes his cane into the sand, then he turns to him and says that you have to become Krishna conscious. Otherwise, there is no solution to lust. Then further Prabhupada walked. Then further he repeated. He turns back to him, Mr. Judah, and he further says, if you become Krishna conscious, then this question of lust is solved. You cannot solve it any other way. So there is no other way. You have to become only Krishna conscious. So that's the meaning when it is said that unless you become a devotee, every rest, all other activities, whatever you do, it's all mental speculation. Manoratena, will come to that verse where Bhagavatam says that, a pure devotee is a summum bonum of all the good qualities of the demigods. But whereas a non-devotee, he is actually, he doesn't even possess even a single good quality, because whatever thought process, whatever activity he does, it's all based on Manorata, based on the chariot of his mind, based on the mental plane. So you cannot go beyond that. So above the mind is intelligence, above the intelligence is soul, the hierarchy of the soul, which Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita. So a materialistic person will never be able to come to that stage unless they take up the devotional service, Krishna consciousness. Then further Prabhupada explains, related to this, in Krishna book, there is the instance where, Kamsa, so he was very well situated, he was a very pious man, he was very caring, good brother, good son. So, but the moment he hears that, your sister's eighth child is going to be your enemy, is going to be the reason for your death, then immediately became very worried, and he turned into completely a violent form. Otherwise, he was driving the chariot of his sister and brother-in-law. But just one statement which he heard from the sky turned him completely opposite. Then further it happens that arrangement was made where Vasudeva pacifies him. So when he could not pacify with all good words, Vasudeva preaches entire Bhagavad Gita. He says Atma is unborn. Even if someone comes and kills you, but you will not die, because you are forever. Atma is eternal. So Kamsa could not be convinced of all these logic and arguments. Then Vasudeva comes to an agreement. At least let me save Devaki's life first. Then after that, even if any child are born, if any children are born, then we will see what to do. So then he tells him that any child is born, the moment the child is born, I'll hand over that child to you. So whatever you want to do, you do. So at least save the life of Devaki. So Kamsa also agreed. So then when he takes the first child, so Kamsa becomes very passionate towards Vasudeva. Poor Vasudeva, I have imprisoned him, I have punished him so much, but still, the moment a first child is born, he is honestly bringing that to me. Things, anyway, 8th child is going to kill me, so why should I worry so much about for the first child? So let him take away. So when Vasudeva is actually taking the first child back to Devaki, so he's not happy, he's confused. He's confused because, so Prabhupada in that Krishna book, first chapter, Prabhupada writes, so when Vasudeva was returning home with his firstborn child, although he was pleased by the behavior of Kamsa, he could not believe him because he knew that Kamsa was uncontrolled. A person whose senses are not controlled, he can never be faithful. So we can never put faith on his words, on his activity, on his behavior. So then, even I may be taking for now he has spared the child, but I don't know. Some is enemy, some is so-called friends will come, will tell him something. Again, he may become, he can change his mind. So how can I put faith on him? So an atheistic person cannot be firm in his words of honor. One who cannot control the senses cannot be steady in his determination. So here Chanakya Pandit also confirms this, that never put a trust in a person whose senses are uncontrolled. It's like a diplomat. So those who are addicted to unrestricted sense gratification can never be truthful, nor can they be trusted with any faith. So a person, one whose senses are not controlled, so it's very difficult for him, because if he has become the servant of his senses, he himself is not in control. So he's completely dictated by the desires. So that's why no good character or no good behavior can be seen in that person. So in the further Prabhupada writes, therefore it is very difficult to give up lust and desires for low activities until one is in the line of devotional service to the Lord. So how to come out of the lust? It's very simple. How to come out of the lust, anger, desires is to become Krishna consciousness and be engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Further, When one is frustrated in lust and low desires, anger is generated from the mind and expressed between the eyebrows. So we have practically seen, when the first sons, the Kumaras were born, so when they denied to get into the Grihastha life and increase the progeny, so Brahma became very angry in his mind. So he tried to control his mind, but he could not control. So the anger came out from the between his eyebrows in the form of Rudra. So that's what Prabhupada here mentioning, that when one is frustrated in lust and low desires, anger is generated from the mind and expressed from between the eyebrows. So ordinary men are therefore advised to concentrate the mind by focusing on the place between the eyebrows. So for ordinary men, so this is basically Krishna's dictation, how one should actually control the mind. So in the 5th chapter, Krishna explains that how one should actually situate oneself to perform austerities, yoga. So towards the end of the 5th chapter, Krishna is explaining. Yes. Sparshan krutva bahirbahyam chakshus chaivantare bruo. Bruo means eyebrows. So that's what in this today's verse also it's mentioned. So chakshus chaivantare bruo. Chakshus, the eyes. So eyes has to be focused between the two eyebrows. Then pranapano samau krutva nashabhyanthara charinau yajendriya manobuddhir munir moksha prayanaha vigattecha bayakrodo ya sada mukta evasaha. So how a person before he performs yoga, what are the prerequisites, in what position he should make him sit. So Krishna is explaining, shutting out all external sense objects, keeping eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, thus controlling the mind, senses and intelligence. The transcendentalist becomes free from desire, fear and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. So this is the prerequisites or precondition for a person who want to progress in devotional service through the Ashtanga Siddhi, Ashtanga Yoga. If you want to practice through that method, so these are the terms and conditions for Ashtanga Yoga. You have to follow all these things. So after hearing this, what Arjuna said, Arjuna was very happy. Arjuna says, no Krishna, I can control the wind, but I cannot control my mind. So how can I do all these things? So it is impractical for me. So please tell me what I should do now. What else? What is the next stage? Is there any other way? So that's what Prabhupada is saying. For ordinary men, so they are advised to concentrate the mind by focusing on the place between the eyebrows. But it's for ordinary men. But for devotees, that's what Krishna did not enforce this on Arjuna, because Arjuna was a devotee. So for devotees, what is supposed to be done? Whereas the devotees of the Lord are already practiced to place the Supreme Personality of Godhead on the seat of their minds. Savai mana Krishna padhara vindayo. So Savai mana Krishna. So where we should keep Krishna's lotus feet? On the mind. Savai mana Krishna padhara vindayo. So the devotee has to remember the Lord continuously, because devotees means here is referring to a pure devotees, of course. So they are always in the thought of Krishna. Even yogis also. What actually Krishna tells about yogis? Who is actually perfect yogi? Yoginam api sarvesham madgaten antaratmanaha. One who keeps me within his heart. One who is always meditating on me, whose mind and heart is filled with my thoughts only. Then he is called as the best yogi. He is known as yogi actually. So yogi, that means actually that is the perfection of the yoga system, the perfection of the Ashtanga yoga system. So but whereas devotees, they are naturally in that condition. They always keep the Lord's lotus feet, the Lord's beautiful darshan in their mind and heart, and they always meditate on them. That's why this process of Ashtanga yoga may not be required. So that's what Prabhupada mentions here, which Krishna also confirms in the Bhagavad Gita. Then further, the theory of becoming desireless is untenable because the mind cannot be made desireless. When it is recommended that one be desireless, it is understood that one should not desire things which are destructive to spiritual values. So certain spiritual practices, spiritual organizations, they also recommend one should become desireless. Why one should become desireless? Because the reason for our struggle in this world is because of our desires only. Yes, it is fact. So Jiva, when he was with Krishna, he wanted to enjoy. He had a desire that I want to enjoy independent of Krishna. I want to be the center of activity. I want to be the center of enjoyment. So that was the desire. Because of that, all these tribulations he had to go through. He is going through. So simply they say, okay, you become desireless. No desires at all. So then problems are solved. It's just like rabbit. Prabhupada gives an analogy. Rabbit, when an animal is trying to attack rabbit, what rabbit does? It runs for some time. When it becomes almost, it cannot run further, it closes his eyes and thinks that no one is chasing me. Or ostrich bird. So it digs his head into the sand or mud, thinks that nothing is happening. कोई परेशानी नहीं है. So this is the process of becoming desirelessness is like that actually. So does that mean that the problem is solved? No. Why? Because the desirelessness is very, very, very difficult thing in this world. Not difficult, it is impossible. A living entity, Jiva, cannot be desireless. The constitutional nature or position of Jiva is that what? It's not just as some inert object. So thinking, feeling, willing, these are all the qualities of the soul. So then when we have to think, when we have to feel, when we have to enjoy, so then we cannot say with desirelessness. So Prabhupada, that's why refutes this theory of desirelessness. So a devotee of the Lord always has the Lord in his mind, and thus he does not need to be desireless because all his desires are in relationship with the service of the Lord. So people say, mauna. Mauna means what? Someone has to practice silence, mauna. So whereas mauna means no talk. So there is an organization in Jaipur only. So they conduct a course for 15 days. So when you are entering into the campus of that institution, so you are told to keep your mobile, all your wallet, no money, no mobile, nothing you can carry. Clothes also, certain kind of uniform they themselves will give. You have to give some money for that before only. So then when you enter for the next 15 days, you are not in contact with any persons in the outside world. And you cannot speak. 15 days you have to keep your mouth closed. No talks, not even inside, not even murmuring. So that's the one, that way you can attain the inner peace. So that's known as inner peace course. Understand search your inner peace. So where it can happen after 15 days, sometimes it so happens the person really wants to come out of that course. So once it so happened, our own devotee, congregation devotee had some health issues, lot of health issues. So he was recommended to go to some in South India, some naturopathy or that kind of treatment. So when he went there, so obviously when you go there, so you are going to control your senses. So the way they treat the diseases is to control through having a better way of living, taking only right kind of diet, simple diet, all those things. So the devotee after 15 days he was so frustrated inside. The moment he came back, he ate more than what he missed in the last 15 days actually. So these kind of artificial ways of means actually will never be able to help us. Of course, one if he is really controlled, one is really self-balanced, of course he can try all these things. Say like eating nothing. In fact, Prabhupada says in one place. So if you really want to, I think I have that statement. If you really want to control the lust, Prabhupada says you should eat less spice. So then really, otherwise, these things actually stimulate a person's, lust, anger, desires and all those things. So even though it may not be practically very possible, but someone can really try. So Prabhupada here is mentioning that the devotee of the Lord always has the Lord in his mind. And thus he does not need to be desireless because all his desires are in relationship with the service of the Lord. So we are discussing about mauna, the silence. So actually, Prabhupada, how Prabhupada describes silence as, if you should talk only about Krishna, no Gramya Katha, no Prajalpa, then it is known as actual mauna, actual silence. So Mona does not mean not talking. Mona means actually speaking about only Krishna Katha or zero nonsense talks. That's actually known as Mona. So that devotee is already practicing. Why he needs to artificially try these different methods. Then power of speaking is called Saraswati, or the goddess of learning, and the birthplace of goddess of learning is the mouth of Brahma. So here it said that Asyad walk. Asyad means from the mouth. Walk, speaking. The power of speaking was generated from the mouth. So power of speaking means it's basically Saraswati, the goddess of learning. So she was born from the mouth of Brahma. So even if a man is endowed with the favor of goddess of learning, it is quite possible for his heart to be full of lust and material desire, and his eyebrows to display symptoms of anger. So here Prabhupada is referring to, even though a person may be well qualified, he may be a highly qualified man, full of knowledge, but still he is not free from lust and anger because it is quite possible for his heart to be full of lust and material desires. So even though Mother Saraswati's favor is there, but you need Krishna's favor to come out of lust and desires. One may be very learned in the mundane estimation, but that does not mean that he is free from the low activities of lust and anger. So one of the about one and a half year back, so another such celebrity in the world, he was in the midst of controversy. May not be controversy, but he was in the midst of the news. So Bill Gates, so his wife divorced Bill Gates. She applied for a divorce from Bill Gates. So Bill Gates is I think he must be around 60 years now. His wife is about 55, 57-year-old. So she applied for divorce. So many, he was the richest man at that time. And Melinda Gates, she was the richest woman, and she was known for lot of philanthropy. So when generally a person is engaged in philanthropic activity, of course she was also very learned. She was a general manager in the company which her husband was owning. So many people went to ask her, what is the reason why you are actually breaking up, why you are asking for divorce. Actually, say if it is young age, we can understand, okay, more options for sense gratification was wanted, or there was no sense pleasure exchange properly. That may be the reason, or maybe they wanted to explore the world through different partners. But at the age of 60 years, 55, 60 years, what is the need to apply for a divorce? It's very strange. So in the couple of articles, so she mentions that not just one reason, there are a couple of reasons. So, but one main reason is that he was not loyal to me. That means, so the reporter is asking, does that mean that he was cheating on you? She says yes. Then for how long? And with how many people he had relationships? She tells, please go and ask Bill Gates only. I don't have answer for this. That means that shows kind of a bitterness which a relationship which has developed. So that's what here it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam, that one may be very learned in the mundane estimation, but does not mean that he is free from a low activities of lust and anger. He was not just the richest person, he was not famous for that. He was famous for another reason. For what? Philanthropy, charity. Melinda Gates Foundation has given, and of course they are pledged about their, if I am not wrong, some 70 to 80% of their entire worth as charity. So they were famous for the philanthropic activity, but in spite of that, he was not free from lust and anger. So that's what Bhagavatam is saying. So we should not go by a person's external behavior unless he is a devotee of the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada ends the purport with, good qualification can be expected only from a pure devotee who is always engaged in the thought of the Lord or in samadhi with faith. So good qualification can be expected only from a pure devotee. So that even Srimad Bhagavatam confirms in the 5th canto. So the verse says, Yasyasya bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana. Sarvair Gunais Tatra Samasate Suraha. So a person, one who is a pure devotee, Bhakti Bhagavati Akinchana, one who is a pure devotee, one who is engaged in the devotional service of Akinchana, the Supreme Lord, then Sarvair Gunais Tatra Samasate Suraha. Sarvair Gunair, all the qualities of the Sura means demigods. So all the qualities of the demigods are manifested in the body of that pure devotee. So the translation: all the demigods and their exalted qualities such as religion, knowledge, and renunciation. Religion, knowledge, and renunciation, all the three become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Then, second part of the verse says, then it is about pure devotees. Then, Harav abhaktasya kuto mahadguna. Harav means a person, one who is not a devotee, abhaktasya, one who is not a devotee of the Lord. Kuto mahadguna, he may possess great qualities. He may be a very philanthropic person, he is very richest, he is very kind, very dear, but not necessary that he will possess, because his activities are guided by manoratena sati dhavato bahihi. Manoratena means by mental speculation. Prabhupada actually started this purport with this statement: a conditioned soul is under the influence of mental speculation. And Prabhupada is ending the purport with all the good qualities can be found only from a pure devotee. So this entire Prabhupada's purport starting to ending is summarized in one verse in the Bhagavatam, that a pure devotee has all the qualities, whereas a non-devotee, if he is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord, what actually happens? So he cannot control his mind, he cannot control his senses. So then when a person cannot control his senses, he cannot be put faith, his activities cannot be exemplary. So somewhere some material influence will be there in his activities, irrespective of what good qualities he may possess. So what we should understand is that, so here in this verse, the 5 qualities, out of the 5, 3 qualities, that is lust, anger, and desire. So basically there are Arishad Vargas. So there are 6 principles which are like enemies to the soul, which are enemies to the living entities in this world. What are those? Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Madha, and Matsarya. So all these 6, starting from lust. Basically lust is the principal one. Rest 5 are different manifestation of lust according to the different interaction of the modes. Just like we discussed, lust, when it is satisfied, it becomes Lobha. Not satisfied, it becomes Krodha. Then when a person satisfies, when a person possesses something, when he is successful in his lust, what he becomes? He becomes Madha, he becomes arrogant. Then when he is not possessing, other one is possessing, what it becomes? Matsarya, enviousness. Then when he is in the lust, he is completely into illusion, that is known as Moha. So in this way, all the Arishad Vargas, basically they are, out of the Arishad Vargas, the 5 different principles, they are with nothing but different interaction of the lust into different modes or different circumstances. So one has to be very careful. So then why Brahmaji is creating all these things? Because he knows that living entities, when they come to this material world, this is what they want. This is the way. Basically, when the living entity goes through all these things, then when he sufficiently becomes frustrated and then understands that I cannot enjoy independent of Krishna, so then he can go back to Godhead, because this material world is a reformation center, right? So that's why Brahma has to create all these things. No, Brahma could have created only good progeny or only good Prajapatis. No, it cannot happen. This material world is not meant for only pious activities. Even impious activities also will be there. So that's why Brahma has created. So in the further chapters, we can see how Brahma further created different more elements, Saraswati, Kardamuni, and all those people. So I'll stop here. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Ritai Gaur Premanande.